कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा। कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधमाधव कुञ्ज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा। जय ओम विश्वनाथ परमाम से परिदक्ष स्तुत सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं शेषी भक्त विदान स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिदक्ष स्तुत सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद लखोर विष्णुदास पाद महाराज की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद सत्यानंद श्री भक्ति ठाकुर की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास पाद महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास अविनाश गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य श्रीदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम श्री श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव साधि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण को गोपना श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। श्री मायपुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगा माई की यमुना माई की जय। पापी देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन गुरु वृंद की जय। समाधि भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled. It's all glories to the assembled. It's all glories to the assembled. It's all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Prabhupada की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु पत्रेषु नित्यं वाग्दसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिः. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to today's Srimad Bhagavatam summary study. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 8, Text 16 to Text 31. Text 16, I'll read the first text and then some important slokas recite. Text 16. Abhimatas savai kripana ena balako mrita harini suto ho mamanaryasya शतकिराटमतेर् अकृत सुकृतस्य कृतक विश्रम्भ आत्मप्रत्ययेन तदभिज्ञयन् सुजत इवागमिष्यति. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bharat Maharaj would think, alas, the deer is now helpless. I am now very unfortunate, and my mind is like a cunning hunter, for it is always filled with cheating propensities and cruelty. The deer has put its faith in me just as a good man who has a natural interest in good behavior forgets the misbehavior of a cunning friend and puts his faith in him. Although I have proved faithless, will this deer return and place its faith on me? Bharat Maharaja was very noble and exalted, and therefore, when the deer was absent from him, he thought himself unworthy to give it protection. Due to his attachment for the animal, he thought that the animal was so noble and exalted as he himself was. According to the logic of Atmavan Manyate Jagat, everyone thinks of others according to his own position. Therefore, Maharaja Bharat felt that the deer had left him due to his negligence, and that due to the animal's noble heart, it would again return. Om Agyanatimirandasya Ananjan Salakaya Chakshit Palitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manupishtam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Swamrupapadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Padakamalam Shri Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakarjatam Saivana Raghunatamitam Tam Stivam Sapvaitam Sapdutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanilada Shri Vishakanitam Chai Krishna Karanastudo Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopishabha Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tutakancana Gaurandi Radhayanta Vishwari Vishabhanaste Paramangi Hari Priya Panchakalpatar Vishchak Pasni Bevshapati Tanam Bhavani Vaishnavibhyo Namam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Muham Karli Vachalam Hungam Nadi Digri Matrupada Mahamande Shri Guram Dhanatarim Paramandamadam Shri Chaitanya Mishram Hare Krishna. So just to give connect to the previous class, which was conducted by the previous speaker, we see that Bharat Maharaj saw the deer cub, and thereafter he developed some attraction for it, which then drew his attention constantly, which ultimately turned to attachment to the deer. And then he developed affection for the deer, and finally he was fully absorbed into the deer, always thinking of it. Now, from today's sloka, here in this sloka, it is mentioned as to how Bharat Maharaj expresses lamentation due to separation from the deer. So he has already seen the deer and he has developed attachment, and then he was always constantly thinking of the deer. And when the deer was not there in his ashram, he started lamenting due to separation from the deer. So he thinks of various points due to which his lamentation is going deeper and deeper. And this deer, sloka, he thinks that the deer was actually innocent, but Bharat Maharaj thought that he was cunning, and because he was cunning, he feels that he has cheated the deer, and he feels that he has a tendency to cheat, and that Bharat Maharaj feels that he himself to be very, very cruel. Now, the deer had put full faith in him, but Bharat Maharaja expresses his carelessness in taking care of the deer. He also thinks that if the deer had met other deer, he would have run away with them. Now, all this was basically an imagination that he had, and he was thinking that the deer will come back. Now, all these are imaginary, and he thinks that he was a very noble person also. So he thought because he was negligent, the deer left him. Now, We also develop many times so many imaginary we have thoughts. For example, if one of our close friend has some relationship issues, we start to speculate and we have very many imaginary thoughts. Now, these types of imaginations develop particularly when someone sees a person from the opposite sex and starts to imagine, which happens always in a regular day-to-day basis. For example, a boy might see a girl whom he might see to be very, very attractive externally, and then the girl might not have even seen the boy, but he would start thinking that she is very, very attractive and he likes her, he develops attraction for her. He also develops attachment for her. She might not have even seen him, she might not even think about him, nothing of that sort, but he starts thinking that he loves her. These are stages which one develops. Another example is when someone goes to a film and he sees the hero performing many heroic acts. He feels the moment he sees the film and comes out of the theater, he also feels that he's heroic like the hero whom he saw in the movie. So these are the after effects of getting entangled into Maya. So this is how actually Maya starts to attract a person. The deer was cub and it was looking very, very attractive. Even otherwise, normally a deer looks very attractive and a deer cub looks all the more attractive. So, but the deer was not worried about him because a deer does not have so much of intelligence. Some animals like dogs and maybe even cats might have some instincts and may develop some loyalty towards its master, but a deer is not that type of animal which would trust, which would have developed that type of loyalty to the master. Srila Prabhupada also mentions in many places as to how a hunter blows a horn in a very such an attractive way that the deer gets carried away and then the hunter kills the deer. So in every respect, the deer is a very innocent animal. So Bharat Maharaj thinks that actually it is his mistake that the deer has ran away. We go to text number 17. Translation says, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden, eating soft grass? So, coming to relationships, again, we have a tendency to imagine such feelings when we develop attraction to someone or it may not need not be only to the opposite sex. We may develop some attraction even to animals. And if we don't see the pet animals, which we keep normally tame in our house, and if we don't see them for some time, we also develop some lamentation. Sometimes we also think that maybe the animal has gone out somewhere and it is in danger. And he thinks that I will come as a hero to protect that animal. Many times the boys also think these are all imaginary thoughts. The boy might think, oh, the girl I have seen might be in danger, and so I have not seen her for a long time. And the next time he will make plans in his mind that I should manipulate some sort of an act in such a way that something goes wrong. And then I go and rescue the woman, and then I am looked at as a protector for her. So these are all imaginary things that a boy develops in a young age, even though it has no reality. Even if it's a factual, the truth is that it has no reality. Relationships are temporary, even between a boy and girl. And this above imagination is already given, the example is given in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which I'll come to at a later part of this discussion, where there was a king, Prachina Barhisat, who Narad Muni narrates to this king uh, details of how this king became attracted to his wife. And finally, he is driven to his wife so much so that at some time he starts feeling separation from his wife. He thinks, how when she was there? Actually, this is an analogy which Narad Muni gives to Prachina Barhisat to show him that he is in a wrong path, he's in a materialistic path, and he should avoid getting entangled into it. And finally, Narad Muni goes on describing, saying that the king got so much attracted to his wife that always he was thinking, lamenting that if he was here, how she would have been, what would have, she would have served in this way, that way, and so forth. And finally, at the point of leaving his body, the king thought about her. And then in the next life, he took the body of a woman. Shastras explain as to how whatever consciousness we have at the time of leaving our body, that is the consciousness, that body that one will get at the time of leaving it. So the new body develops based on whatever consciousness we have at the time of leaving the body. So this Puranjana thinks about his wife, and the next birth, he gets the body of a woman in the same family, and she takes birth as a daughter of a king. And then again, what happens is that her husband passes away, and then she laments, and then Brahmana comes and consoles her. So all these are imaginary thoughts that happened to King Prachina Barisar. The point is that Narad Muni, being a very self-realized soul, he tries to explain to King Prachina Barisar that you are like this, so that Prachina Barisar should realize that he is situated in that position. So all these types of imaginations drag one to a person deeper and deeper. And this is how, in this case also, from the material perspective, someone who is not in devotion service might look at it in a different way. But spiritually, these are circumstances that led to Bharat Maharaj's fall down. Text number 18. Then he says, I do not know, but the deer might have been eaten by a wolf or a dog, or by the boars that flock together, or the tiger who travels alone. So here, Bharat Maharaja's lamentation is going further. With every sloka, we'll see that Bharat Maharaja's lamentation is increasing due to separation from the deer. Here he thinks maybe the deer might have been killed by a tiger or a wolf. So again, his imagination is going deeper and deeper. Text number 19. Translation Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Alas, when the sun rises, all auspicious things begin. Unfortunately, they have not begun for me. The sun god is a Vedas personified, but I am bereft of all Vedic principles. That sun god is now setting. Yet the poor animal who trusted in me since its mother died has not returned. So here, Bharat Maharaj is praying to sun god, in which Srila Prabhupada actually quotes in the purport sloka from Brahma Samhita, Yachaksuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rase Satyajaha Yasyat Maya Brahmati Sambhada Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Pajami. The translation in a nutshell, Brahma says that as the sun rises, one should chant the Vedic mantra beginning from the Gayatri mantra. We chant, many of you might have heard even the Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. The sun is a symbolic representation of the eyes of the Supreme Lord. So here, Bharat Maharaj is looking at the sun god as one who can enlighten him. And he feels that when the sun rises, all auspicious things should happen. But unfortunately, in his case, he does not feel so. He says the sun god is Vedas personified, and I am bereft of all the Vedic principles. So he feels that sun god, by praying to sun god, he should become enlightened. But unfortunately, he is not feeling that enlightenment. So, and still he sees that now the sun god is going to, now sun is going to set. So what is going to happen? The animal who trusted in him after his mother died has not so far returned. So this way, Bharat Maharaj lamentation is going to increase sloka by sloka, and he feels the absence of that deer, and he feels that there is nothing auspicious happening in his life. So many times, even in our life, there are different theories that are given for these things, but there is a cycle when sometimes many things go wrong, and then the person start thinking that there is nothing right for me. So this way, Bharat Maharaj also is putting his thoughts in different directions in from various perspectives as to how unfortunate he is in spite of sun god being present there. And he is worshipping the sun god and praying that the sun should not set. But when the sun has risen and he has not got any auspiciousness, he feels the sun is now going to set, and in the dark everything becomes inauspicious. So what is going to happen to him? So Bharat Maharaj thought that he is very, very unfortunate due to the absence of the deer. So uh, his imagination takes a deeper and deeper turn, and he is wondering as to what is going to happen when the sun is going to set. So, in other words, he doesn't want the sun to set. He wants the sunset to be prolonged more and more so that there can be some possibilities of the deer coming back. So, he is praying to sun god that let the sun not be set. Uh, some examples of such these things, instances are given in there is one instance in Mahabharata where the battle was going on when the Pandavas Krishna arranged for the sun god to set at a later stage. But these are rare exceptional circumstances. Bharat Maharaj was not on that platform, though he was a great devotee of the Lord, but he had fallen down from his position, which we'll see in every sloka. So text number 20. Well, the translation says, translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He said that deer is exactly like a prince. When will it return? When will it again display its personal activities, which are so pleasing? When will it again pacify a wounded heart like mine? I certainly must have no pious asset, otherwise the deer would have returned by now. So there are many points that are here. Bharat Maharaj is lamenting on. He is comparing the deer to a prince. The prince is normally very attracted to everyone because he's the next uh, Rajkumar. So he's going to be the next king. And generally, at such some ages, the prince might look very attractive. So here, Bharat Maharaj is comparing the deer to a prince, and he's thinking, when will it return? And then when will it again display its personal activities which are so pleasing? So here in this loka, it shows how Bharat Maharaj was involved in his relationship with the deer to such an extent that every activity of on a personal basis was very pleasing to Bharat Maharaj. That means whether he was eating or whether he was sleeping or whether he was meditating, everything that he did was focused on the deer. And then he starts thinking, when will it again come and pacify a wounded heart like mine? He feels that his heart has been very deeply wounded. So will that deer ever return back and heal my heart, wounded heart? Then he starts feeling that. He says, I certainly must have no pious assets. Otherwise, the deer would have returned by now. So he feels that I don't have any positive activities. So I don't have any pious results. I have not performed any pious activities. So I don't have any pious results. Otherwise, by now, the deer would have definitely come back to me. So this is how he was very anxious. And this is how it is mentioned that a relationship, in practicality, every relationship that we see in the material world is on a temporary basis, whether within the family, outside the family, friend circle, society, everything. All relationships are temporary in nature in this material world. So, putting one's thoughts in terms of a relationship to an animal is also an illusion on a deeper level. And now he thinks that the deer will not return and that he's a very, very unfortunate. Some quotes are that a deer is very, very difficult to relate with. Uh, One example is that Mother Sita got trapped due to her attraction for a deer because the deer looks very attractive. And so it is said that, and we also develop a lot of affection for our near and dear ones who also may be a source of trap for us for getting into illusion. So Bharat Maharaj thought that the deer was like his son and Bharat Maharaj left all his relationships at home, his kingdom. He had so many relations, ministers, soldiers, so many generals. He left all those things and then he came to the forest for meditating. But he has developed relationship with the deer, that is why it is said that one should be very careful in in dealing with the animal, because one tends to develop a lot of affection, particularly when they are kept at home, and if one does not see them for a part of the day or for a few days, one feels a lot of separation. And here we see that Bharat Maharaj's separation is going deeper and deeper. Text number 21. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Alas, the small deer, while playing with me and seeing me feigning meditation, with closed eyes, would circumambulate me due to anger arising from love, and it would fearfully touch me with the points of its soft horns, which felt like drops of water. So every sloka we see that Bharat Maharaj is contemplating artificial imagination, which is definitely an illusion. Here, the point that he is trying to say is that the deer used to be always playing with me, and even when I was in meditation, it would come and circumambulate me. And now he feels that because the deer uh, uh, has been angry with him, and the deer has touched Bharat Maharaj with soft horns, which are like drops of water. So Bharat Maharaj is thinking that the animal pricked him with points of horns. Now the horns are not soft. Normally the horns are hard. So here he is thinking that the pricking of the deer's horn when Bharat Maharaj is performing meditation was like drops of water. But actually, when any animal's horn is so sharp that one feels irritation. But here he feels that the pricking of the sharpness of the horn is like drops of water. And then he expresses his anger in love. So, some examples in Shastras about expression of anger in love. We see Srimati Radharani getting angry on Krishna. That is out of love. And in fact, there is a temple in Vrindavan called Man Mandir in Vrindavan. So we also tend to develop such type of anger when we lose an object for which we have a lot of attachment. For example, a child out of innocence might throw a mobile phone which may be very dear to us, or a gold ornament or something like that, because the child is innocent but he does not know. But we might get angry on the child out of our affection for the light, for the object. But the child might not know the importance of the object. Text number 22, translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When I placed when I placed all the sacrificial ingredients on the kusa grass, the deer, when playing, would touch the grass with its teeth and thus pollute it. When I chastised the deer by pushing it away, it would immediately become fearful and sit down motionless, exactly like the son of a saintly person. Thus, it would stop its play. So, here his lamentation is getting much more deeper. He is thinking that if the deer was there and Bharat Maharaj would be sitting and meditating, sitting on the kusa grass, and at that time, the deer would touch the grass with its teeth and pollute the kusa grass. Now, first and the foremost is that kusa grass does not have any contamination or pollution. But Bharat Maharaj is thinking that he will be sitting in meditation, and at that time, the deer will come and touch the kusa grass with its teeth, and thus the kusa grass will get polluted. This is one point. Then, at that point, when Bharat Maharaj becomes angry on the deer, he pushes the deer further away. And the deer, what would happen is the deer would become fearful, and then it would come and go and sit down without any motion, just like the son of a saintly person. And thus the deer would stop playing. So, these are all Bharat Maharaj is thinking that he may be sitting in meditation and then the deer will come and lick the kusha grass. He will get angry on the deer. He'll push the deer farther, and the deer will become very fearful thereafter that, and will go a little way and away, and then the deer will stop its play. So this is all again the imagination that Bharaj Maharaj is contemplating out of his separation from the deer. Text number 23. This is an important sloka. I will recite. किं वा अरे आचरितं तपस्तपस्विन्ययान्नयात् यत् इदम् अवनिः सविनय कृष्णसार तनय तनुतर शुभग शिवतामकर कुर पदपङ्क पंक्तिभिर्द्रविण विदुरातुरस्य तस्य कृपणस्य मम द्रविण पदवीं सुचयन्ति आत्मानं च सर्वतः कृत कौतुकं द्विजानां स्वर्गापवर्ग कामानां देव यजनां करोति. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After speaking like a madman in this way, Bharat Maharaj got up and went outside. Seeing the footprints of the deer on the ground, he praised the footprints out of love, saying, "O unfortunate Bharata, your austerities and penances are very insignificant compared to the penance and austerity undergone by this earth planet. Due to the earth's severe penances, the footprints of this deer, which are small, beautiful, most auspicious, and soft, are imprinted on the surface of this fortunate planet. This series of footprints show a person like me who are bereaved due to the loss of the deer, how the animal has passed through the forest and how I can regain my lost wealth. By these footprints, this land has become a proper place for Brahmanas who desire heavenly planets or liberation to execute sacrifices to the demigods." I'll run through point by point translation. So the first point, he says that after expressing lamentation in all these slokas, Bharat Maharaj thinks that he should go out and look for the deer. So he comes out of his ashram and he imagines that these are the footprints of the deer on the ground, and he starts praising Mother Earth. He says, "Oh," and he condemns himself. He says, "Oh, unfortunate Bharata, your austerities and penances are very insignificant compared to the penance and austerity undergone by the earth planet." So he compares himself to Mother Earth and glorifies Mother Earth, saying that she has performed so many austerities and penances that the deer has put its footprints on the ground. But Bharat Maharaj's austerities and penances are so poor that he has not got this opportunity. Then he says, due to the earth's severe penances, the footprints of this deer, which are small, beautiful, and most auspicious. Now he is considering the footprints of the deer as very, very auspicious and soft, that are imprinted on the surface of this fortunate planet. So the planet has become fortunate. The surface has become fortunate because of the footprints of the deer, which look very, very attractive, very, very small, very, very auspicious also, and very soft also. Now, there are many people who still believe that when they start their first outing in the morning, if a cat goes from, I don't know the direction part of it, if it goes from left to right, it is inauspicious, but the same cat, if it goes from right to left, it is auspicious. Of course, and then some believe that if during their first outing they see a cow, it is very auspicious. I don't know the truth or the reality of these things. But then Bharat Maharaj is contemplating that the earth was very, very auspicious to have the footprints of this deer. Then he says that these series of footprints show that a person like me who are bereaved due to loss of the deer, how the animal has passed through the forest and how I can regain my lost wealth. So Bharat Maharaj considers that the deer as his most wealthiest object. He had a kingdom which was far bigger. He had population which was very big enough. He had all the opulence, and he left everything and came to the forest. But now he feels that his most important wealth that he has lost is that deer. And he feels that very much bereaved due to the loss of the deer, and he feels that he has lost it, and will he ever regain this? And he further goes on to say that by these footprints, this land has become a proper place for Brahmanas who desire heavenly planets or liberation to execute sacrifices to the demigods. That means we see how Bharat Maharaj is contemplating now. He's thinking that the Earth planet was fortunate enough to have the footprints of the deer, and now he feels that the Brahmanas, because of the deer's footprints, the Brahmanas are fortunate that they can perform sacrifice for the demigod so that they can ascend to heavenly planets or they can attain liberation. So he is thinking to that extent that the planet has become very fortunate enough because the deer has left its footprints and the Brahmanas get the benefit of this, that they will perform sacrifices by which they can ascend to the heavenly planets or uh, they can get liberation. And Srila Prabhupada quotes as to how when a man's son was blind since birth, the father, out of staunch affection for the child, named him Padmalochana or lotus eyed. That means Srila Prabhupada is giving an analogy that when a man's son was blind, but actually he named the son as lotus eyed or Padmalochana out of affection for the child. So this is the situation that has come to Bharat Maharaj also, that he fell to his condition due to this material love for the deer. And Srila Prabhupada gives a quote, which is a sloka from Smriti Shastra, and the translation says, that tract of land where the footprints of a black deer can be seen is to be understood as a suitable place to execute religious rituals. So that sloka also gives the same meaning, that wherever there is a footprint of a black deer, it is understood that it is a suitable place for executing religious rituals. The point is that love is blind in this material world. So Bharat Maharaj considers the earth as very auspicious. And these are all speculative thoughts. And another example, relative example, is that it is said in Ramayana that even Lord Rama used to ask the birds if they saw Sita. Of course, the he did so, and it was also a pastime of Lord Rama to show that when one comes to this material world, it is full of miseries. So this was one of the pastimes, that conclusions of Rama's pastimes with Lord Rama's pastime with Sita Devi. And of course, as I mentioned before, that she got carried away by a deer. And another example is that the gopis were searching for Krishna out of lamentation, but the gopis had pure love for Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada also used to say that he used to, many times when Srila Prabhupada used to offer obeisances, he used to offer obeisances for a very, very long time. And then disciples were wondering as to why he takes so much of time. And then when they would used to ask, Srila Prabhupada would say that I would always pray that he should not be allured by Maya, because he said that Maya is very, very powerful. This was a very powerful quote. Many times Srila Prabhupada has quoted this. Of course, Srila Prabhupada was already a liberated soul. There was no need for fear for him to be allured by Maya, but it was an example that he wanted to set for his disciples, that one should be very, very careful of Maya. Another example is given in Srimad Bhagavatam as to how Vishwamitra performed meditation for 60,000 years, but then he fell for Menaka just by hearing the ankling of her tinkle bells. That disturbed his meditation. And another example is about Saubharya Muni, who was meditating for many thousands of years underneath the water. And at that time, he saw two fish mating, and that too underneath the water. And until then, he was a celibate saint. But after seeing that fish mating, his meditation got disturbed, and he thought that he should then marry. And then that attraction of marriage was to such a great extent that he approached the king. The king had 50 daughters. He asked for any one daughter to marry, at least one of them, But he was so ugly, Shaubari Muni, at that time that all of them refused. Not one of them was ready to marry. But then he was a great yogi, and because of his yogic power, he could make himself so attractive within a short time. He approached the king of the kingdom again, and he said, "I want to marry." And at that time, all the 50 daughters of the king agreed to marry Shaubari Muni. He married, he had children, and finally, at one point of time, he realized that he made a big mistake in marrying because he underwent a lot of lot of tormentation, and he had to undergo a lot of difficulties. So he thought just by seeing a fish, how he got trapped into a family affair, which he didn't want to. Yeah, until then, he was a celibate. This is one example how Maya can allure anyone at any time from any way. Text number 24. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaja Bharata continued to speak like a bad man. Seeing above his head the dark marks on the rising moon, which resembled a deer, he said, "Can it be that the moon, who is so kind to an unhappy man, might also be kind upon my deer? Knowing that it has strayed from home and has become motherless, this moon has given the deer shelter near itself just to protect it from the fearful attacks of a lion." So previously we saw how he was praying to sun god, then he is glorifying earth planet, and now he is glorifying moon. The moon has got a very vital aspect of giving a cooling shade. And there are always marks in this moon. And Bharat Maharaj is comparing those marks to his on his head. And he said there, when the moon is having patches or spots like a deer, he's thinking, can it be that the moon, who is so kind to an unhappy man, might be kind upon my deer, knowing that it has strayed from home? Is it possible? He's thinking, is it possible that the deer has strayed away from his ashram, and the moon had to give shelter, wanted to give shelter to this deer just to protect it from the attack of the lions. And because of that, the moon has got some spots, and he's comparing these spots as to the spots on his head. So he is now thinking that the moon has given shelter to the deer to protect it. So this is the third shelter that he is looking, comparing with. Text number 25. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After perceiving the moonshine, Bharat Maharaja continued speaking like a crazy person. He said, "The dear sun was so submissive and dear to me that due to its separation, I am feeling separation from my own son. Due to the burning fever of this separation, I am suffering as if inflamed by a forest fire. My heart, which is like the lily of the land, is now burning. Seeing me so distressed, the moon is suddenly splashing its shining nectar upon me, just as a friend throws water on another friend who has a high fever. In this way, the moon is bringing me happiness." So some points are there. One is that it is said, as per Ayurveda, that if one has a high fever and if someone splashes water, it is helpful in subsiding the fever. I'm not aware of this, but this is a quote given by Srila Prabhupada. And Bharat Maharaj was feeling that separation, and now he was comparing the deer to his son. He thought that the moon, because of separation from the deer, before that, he said, "The dear son was so submissive and dear to me that due to separation, I am feeling separation from my own son." So he's comparing the deer cup to that of his son, and he's comparing that he is feeling the type of separation from his son, same way that he's feeling like the deer cup. And then because of this, he has developed fever. And because that's fever, now moon, it is said, while the sun gives a glaring effulgence and lot of heat, moon is supposed to give a cooling effect. And in fact, it is said that the vegetables and the trees, vegetables, plants, and all of them get their nourishment not only from sun but also from the moon. It gives a cooling effect to all of these living entities. So Bharat Maharaj is comparing that his heart is like a lily of the land. but it is burning. And seeing me so distressed, he feels that the moon is certainly throwing some nectar upon, just like as another friend who is throwing water. And because he has got high fever, the moon is throwing that water on Bharat Maharaj. And this way, he is feeling relieved and he feels that the moon is bringing him some happiness. So we see that with every sloka, he became the sun, then he glorified the earth, and here he feels that the moon is going to bestow him by curing his fever, which has happened due to separation from the deer. Text number 26. It's an important sloka. I don't know if I have time. It's a long sloka. I'll read the translation, which is very, very long. Translation Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, in this way, Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family? Considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life, how could he show such uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse, situated itself before him. I will go to the slow translation point by point. The first point that is raised here is that uh, Bharat Maharaj had an uncontrollable desire in him, which came in the form of a deer. Now, here Srila Prabhupada mentions that this attachment to the deer was due to the fruitive results of his past deeds. That means there is something called Jarma Vasana. Everyone has got some or other anartha, and many of these things are carried forward birth after birth after birth after birth, which is what is called Janma Vasana. And that consciousness remains, it doesn't go very easily. But if one performs devotional service very seriously, then one should feel this transformation taking place and losing these anarthas. Then he says, due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga. So he feels that he was doing mystic yoga in his ashram, and he was also performing a lot of austerities, and he was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But now he is lamenting because he developed an attraction to the deer because of the previous activities in his previous life. Maybe he had an attachment to a deer in his previous life, nobody knows. But then this Janma Vasana is such that it goes with a person life after life after life after life. And it is for the individual living being to identify that I have this Janma Vasana and I have to get rid of it and work on it. Then he says, if it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life? So Bharat Maharaj ruled his kingdom very successfully, and at one point of time, he felt that he might develop attachment for his family members. And that is why he left his own family members, he left this kingdom, he left his position as a king. After leaving these things, he's now thinking, how is it that he developed an attraction for a deer? And he felt at that point of time earlier that his family and kingdom and all are stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life. So this a genuine devotee always feels that, yes, I have an attachment to this and I should get rid of it for the progress of my spiritual life. So Bharat Maharaj left everything at that point of time and went to the forest for meditation, thinking that his family would be a big impediment, his kingdom would be a big impediment. It is not very easy for a person like a king because there is a lot of opulence. A king has many wives, big kingdom. he has got a lot of citizens who are looking forward to him. So it is not very easy for any king to give up an attachment to his position. But Bharat Maharaj gave it up thinking that they would be an impediment in the progress of my spiritual life. Now he is lamenting that when I left for the forest, thinking that they would be having impediments, how is it I have developed an attachment for a deer? This is definitely due to my past karma. So this is a judgment that Bharat Maharaj has come to. And now Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. And in the course of time, death approached him like a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse situated itself before him. Srila Prabhupada always gives an example as to how a mouse digs a hole, and then in that hole the snake enters and then eats away the mouse. Similarly, Bharat Maharaj developed an attachment for the deer, and the deer was responsible for Bharat Maharaj fall down from his spiritual activities. From his position, he was a great king, he was a great devotee, but then he had to fall down, and now he feels that it was because of his past karma. And the purpose here, Prabhupada mentions a very important point. Now, one might ask a question that one might have a lot of past misconduct or vicious activities. How to get rid of it? So, Srila Prabhupada gives a quote from Brahma Samhita where there's a sloka 554, Karmani Nirda Adhikintuja Bhakti Bhajan. The point is that that sloka is Yasindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhani Rupa Palabhajana Mahatanoti Karmani Nirda Adhikintuja Bhakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajavi. The translation for that prayer in Brahma Samhita is that right from a smallest insect, Indragopa, to the king of heaven, Indra, all are bound in this material world by the results of their activities. But all those sinful reactions get washed off by just performing Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So here Srila Prabhupada quotes that particular sloka, and he says, for those engaged in devotional service or bhakti bhajana, the results of past deeds are indignified. That means for those who are, Srila Prabhupada is confirming his statement that those who are performing devotional service, the results of the past deeds are already vanquished. So according to this rule, Bharat Maharaj should not be punished for his past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Bharat Maharaj purposefully became over addicted to the deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. So Bharat Maharaj was performing his spiritual activities, but by seeing the deer, what happened was he started neglecting his spiritual activities and he started developing attraction for the deer. And this was just to increase his desire for mature devotional service. Although Bharat Maharaj was awarded the body of an animal, he did not forget what had previously happened due to his purposeful mistake. So Bharat Maharaj is now realizing that at the time of leaving his body, that deer became a stumbling block. He was thinking about the deer, and now he has got the body of a deer. But though he was given the body of a deer, he did not forget what was the devotional service he has been performing in the previous lives. So he was very anxious in a deer's body to get out of that body, and this indicates that his affection for devotional service was intensified. So much so that he was quickly to attain, so much so that he wants to quickly attain perfection in a Brahmana body in the next life. So he developed attraction for a deer, but when he got the body of a deer, he always recollected what devotional service he had done. That was the mercy of the Lord, and this is the facility that the Lord as Paramatma facilitates a devotee who has fallen down to remind him of the devotional service. And then he immediately wanted to leave that body as early as possible so that he can attain perfection again in a Brahmana's body in the next life. This was Bharat Maharaj's contemplation in his body as a deer. And then he says, it is with this conviction that we declare. No, this is from the purport. Srila Prabhupada gives a quote from Back to God magazines that devotees like Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposely commit sinful activities are born in the bodies of dogs, monkeys, and tortoises in that holy land. Thus, they take on these lower forms of life for a short while, and after that, they give up those animal bodies. They are again promoted to a spiritual world. So, Srila Prabhupada gives an example as to how in Vrindavana, many people go to Vrindavana and perform sinful activities. And in Vrindavana or holy places, when someone performs sinful activities, he has to take a body in a lower species of life, like dogs or cats or whatever it is. But then what happens is that after that, they are promoted to a spiritual world. That is why many times Srila Prabhupada has quoted that we should not look at these lower species of life in holy places in a different manner. Even on a material platform, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said that one should not find fault with any living entity because they are all creation of God. So, particularly in a holy land, if somebody has got birth in lower species of life, still they are to be considered great because they are devotees who have fallen down and it is arrangement of the Lord. Now we will see why. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions such punishment is only for a short period and it is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. So the Lord gives this type of a punishment to a devotee who at some point is stuck in his devotional service. So in order to give him a small punishment, the Lord gives the person a body in an abominable life, abominable species, so that he corrects himself and then progresses further in devotional service. There is one example given in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Narad Muni was a small child and he was associating with the Bhakti Vedantas, due to which he remembered whatever he heard from them. Now, when he came back, his mother, who was actually serving the Bhakti Vedantas, was bitten by a snake and she left. And but Narad Muni didn't have at that time anyone in his life. But what he heard from the Bhakti Vedantas reminded him at that point of time, and when he was passing through the jungles, he was feeling intense separation from the Lord. He had only heard from the Bhakti Vedantas, but then he was feeling that separation from the Lord. Similarly, we find in Srimad Bhagavatam how Rukmini developed attraction for Lord Krishna by simply hearing about the glories of the Lord. So, in that birth, Narad Muni was a small boy and he developed some ecstatic symptoms, but he was a very small boy. But then the Lord appeared to Narad Muni for a fraction of a moment and immediately withdrew himself to increase the separation of the boy towards the Lord. Narad Muni already had developed some ecstatic symptoms, but when he saw the Lord for a brief, short period of time, his desire for that or attraction for seeing the Lord increased after the Lord disappeared. So, in the next birth, the Lord, when he sat and he was shedding tears, the Lord came in the form of a voice and he said, in this birth, you will not be able to see me again. But in the next birth, your devotional service will mature and you will see me again. And that is when actually Narad Muni comes in that life and Lord gives him his Veena. And Narad Muni goes around with that Veena singing the glories of the Lord throughout the planet. So the conclusion is that there is something called Janma Vasana, which we carry birth after birth. And before we wind up the existing body, one should get rid of these Janma Vasanas. One should try to retrospect oneself and analyze for oneself what are the anarthas that one has got and how to get rid of these anarthas before leaving the body. And devotional service is such that it does not get wasted. Even if one is in an animal's body, the devotional service continues. And sometimes during our life, we might come across for some pious thoughts, which we need not ignore. But if some sinful thoughts come, it is said that we should not ignore them. we should try to correct our situation. Many times we might come across many sinful thoughts, but we should try to analyze for our own self and try to correct the situation. It is also said that many people might get some bad dreams. They are a punishment for our previous misdeeds or impious acts in this birth or the previous birth. Many times, even devotees might get bad dreams. But here there is a mention by one of the acharyas that these are all punishment for our previous deeds or previous impious acts in the previous birth. Also, when we practice our devotional service, the Lord arranges many things for us to rectify. Text number 27. I'll read the translation. Translation of Prabhupada ki jai. At the time of death, the king saw that the deer was sitting by his side, exactly like his own son, and was lamenting his death. Actually, the mind of the king was absorbed in the body of the deer, and consequently, like those bereft of Krishna consciousness, he left the world, the deer, and his material body and acquired the body of a deer. However, there was one advantage. Although he lost his human body and received the body of a deer, he did not forget the incidents of his past life. This is again a very important point. Although Bharat Maharaj left his body thinking of the deer and he had taken the body of a deer, his consciousness was not taken away. The point is that even in an animal body, if there is a consciousness of devotional service that has been performed before, that consciousness also remains. So that consciousness remained with Bharat Maharaj. Now, there is a difference between a materialist getting an animal body and Bharat Maharaj getting a deer body. After death, generally people forget what has happened in their previous life. But Bharat Maharaj, the Lord facilitated in such a way that Bharat Maharaj did not forget. And Srila Prabhupada gives a quote from Bhagavad Gita sloka, Yam yam mapi smaran bhavam tyante kalevaram tam tam ekvaiti kaunteya sadatil bhava bhav dav. It's the translation, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So the point is that we should be very careful while quitting our body. Then after quitting the body, a person gets another body according to his mental condition at the time of death. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that at death, a person always thinks of a subject matter on which he has been engrossed throughout his life. That means in someone's life, if he has been always thinking money, 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 even at the time of death, he will be thinking about money only. And there is an example of this during Srila Prabhupada, during his tour to the European countries, when he was looking for a place for preaching. He saw a huge church or hall somewhere, and suddenly a rat came out of it. And he said, this is what happens when one is attached to a place. I'll come to this point, which is also coming in the next few slokas. So, the person who took the body of a cat or a mouse in that church was actually very much attached to that place, and that's how he got birthed in that place as that species of life. So one should be very careful on what one thinks at the time of his death. Then Srila Prabhupada mentions, according to this law, because Bharat Maharaj was thinking of the deer and forgetting his worship of the Supreme Lord, he acquired the body of his deer. So a point came when Bharat Maharaja's thoughts of the deer overshadowed even what he remembered when he was worshipping the Supreme Lord. That means the thoughts of the deer was more important for him due to his neglect of his spiritual duties. Then Srila Prabhupada mentions, however, duties having been elevated to the topmost platform of devotional service, he did not forget the incidents of his past life. This special benediction saved him from further deterioration. Due to his past activities in devotional service, he became determined to finish his devotional service even in the body of a deer. So even though Bharat Maharaj got the body of a deer, he was lamenting and he wanted to get out of the deer's body. And he became determined that now I should finish my devotional service. Therefore, it is said in this verse that although he had died, he did not forget the incidents of his previous life. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Karmani Nirda Kintuja Bhakti Javatam, the Brahma Samhita course which I quoted, it is proved herein that due to the grace of the Supreme Lord, a devotee is never vanquished. And due to his willful neglect of devotion service, a devotee may be punished for a short time, but he again revives his devotion service and returns home back to Godhead. Another example from Shastra is about Gajendra, which we'll discuss in the next two slokas. Text number 28. Although in the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj, due to his rigid devotion service in his past life, could understand the cause of his birth in that body. Considering his past and present life, he constantly repented his activities, speaking in the following way. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions that this is a special concession for a devotee. Even if he attains the body of a non-human, by the grace of the Lord, he advances further in devotional service by remembering the activities of his previous life. But for a common man, it is not very easy to remember the activities of his previous life. But Bharat Maharaj could remember because he had performed a lot of sacrifices and austerities and penances to engage in devotional service. And because Bharat Maharaj developed attraction for a deer's, the Lord wanted to correct him by giving him a deer's body. There is one example in Chaitanya Charitamrita itself. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling with his servants in the tour of his South India, one of his servants, I forgot his name, he got attracted to the Bhattataris who are womanizers in Kerala, and he left the company of the Lord. Then finally he came back, and when the Lord came back to Puri, he told his associates like Nityananda Prabhu and his secretary Sarup Damodar that I don't want this person because he went and surrendered himself to those womanizers who were Bhattataris who are womanizers. Of course, then Nityananda Prabhu and all were very merciful, and then they gave him an opportunity to render indirect service to the Lord. Text number 29. In the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj began to lament, what misfortune I have fallen from the path of the self-realized. I gave up my real sons, wife, and home to advance in spiritual life, and I took shelter in a solitary place in the forest. I became self-controlled and self-realized, and I engaged constantly in devotional service, hearing, thinking, chanting, worshipping, and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. I was successful in my attempt, so much so that my mind was always absorbed in devotional service. However, due to my personal foolishness, my mind again became attached, this time to a deer. Now I have obtained the body of a deer and have fallen far from my devotional practices. So this lamentation is being carried forward to Bharat Maharaj. He feels that he was foolish enough to have developed attachment to an insignificant deer, and thus he had to fall down and accept the body of a deer. Now, this is an important point for every devotee, practicing devotee. If we misuse our position and think that we are fully engaged in devotion service, anything can happen anytime to anyone, just like it happened to Bharat Maharaj. Only in the human form of life it is possible for one to execute a devotional service, but if we voluntarily give up this for sense gratification, we certainly have to be punished. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that only in the human form of life can one practice devotional service. That means human form of life, one can practice devotional service, but devotional service is practiced, and even if one falls down, his practice will not continue, but his whatever devotional service he performed, that will not go wasted. So by the grace of Supreme Lord, a devotee is punished in such a way that his eagerness to attain the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva is increased. So the Lord gives a punishment so that one again comes back to, one develops an intensive desire to continue the devotional service. So by his intensive desire, he returns home in the next lifetime. Devotional service is very completely described here. Those who have taken to Krishna consciousness should be very careful that not a single moment is wasted and not a single moment is spent without chanting and remembering the personality of God and his activities. By his own actions and actions of his devotees, Krishna teaches us how to be cautious in devotional service. So this sloka is very instructive for all the sadhakas, and we have to be very, very casual, and we have to be very, very cautious and not be casual. If we are casual, we can become a casualty. If we want to keep our minds completely fixed without deviation, we must engage in devotional service full time. So one must be engaged in devotional service all the time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, to the rest of the life. Srila Prabhupada mentioned, as far as the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness are concerned, they have sacrificed everything to push this Krishna conscious movement. Yet they must take a lesson from the life of Bharat Maharaj to be very cautious. and to see that not a single moment is wasted in frivolous talk, sleep, or voracious eating. So, eating is not prohibited, but if we eat voraciously, we shall certainly sleep more than required. Sense gratification ensures, and we may be degraded to a lower form of life. In that way, our spiritual progress may be checked. So, this particular sloka emphasizes on not to eat too much. Too much of eating leads to too much of sleep. Too much of sleep leads to too much of sense gratification, which can lead to falling down of one's position from his platform of devotional service. Text number 30. I will be slightly rushing up because I have 5 minutes and to cover two slokas. Although Bharat Maharaj received the body of a deer by constant repentance, he became completely detached from all material things. He did not disclose these things to anyone, but he left his mother deer in a place known as Kalanjara mountain, where he was born. He again went to the forest of Shalagrama and the ashrama of Pulastya and Pulaha. So here there are some very important points. I'll read the translation because it's very important. It is significant that Maharaj Bharata, by the grace of Vasudeva, remembered his past life. He did not waste a moment. He returned to Pulaha ashrama, to the village known as Shaligrama. There's a village in Gandaki river in the name of Shaligram. Association is very meaningful. Therefore, ISKCON tries to perfect one who enters the society. The members of this society should always remember that the society is not like a free hotel. Many times we see people coming thinking that this is a hotel, free hotel, but they should not think. All the members should be careful to execute their spiritual duties so that whoever comes will automatically become a devotee and will be able to return back to Godhead in this life. Although Bharat Maharaj acquired the body of a deer, he again left his hearth and home. In this case the mountain Kalanjara. No one should be captivated by his birthplace and family. One should take shelter of the association of devotee and cultivate Krishna consciousness. So here, important points are there before concluding the sloka. Srila Prabhupada mentions that one should not get captivated by one's birthplace because generally people are attached a lot to their birthplace or attached to their family. So that is why one should give up, and the example is given as to how Bharat Maharaj left the ashrama where he was born, and then he took shelter of the association of the devotees. So one should not develop attachment to one's workplace, and at the same time, one should not develop attachment for family. These are two important points which was emphasized even by Her Grace Devaki Mataji, who gave a seminar some time back on how one should leave the body. So, text 31. Remaining in that ashrama, the great king Bharata was now very careful not to fall victim to bad association. Without disclosing his past to anyone, he remained in that ashrama and ate dry leaves only. He was not exactly alone, for he had the association of the super soul. In this way, he waited for death in the body of a deer. Bathing in that holy place, he finally gave up that body. So the point is that Bharat Maharaj realized this mistake and he was constantly thinking of the super soul within the body. I wanted to narrate one pastime of Gajendra, which you all know. Gajendra was also a great devotee of the Lord. In his previous life, he was a great king, and he had constructed a cottage in one of the Malaya hills where he was worshipping the personality of Godhead. Agastya Rishi happened to pass by, and he ignored because he was deeply in meditation. He did not receive Agastya Muni properly. Then the Rishi cursed him and cursed him to become an elephant. And even though he was in the body of an elephant, when Gajendra was in distress, he remembered the previous devotional service. And when he was bitten, he was held up by a crocodile in the ocean. He immediately remembered his devotional service and he picked up a lotus flower and offered prayers in his elephant body, which the Lord was pleased when the Lord heard his prayer. Lord came and killed the crocodile, who was also a devotee in his previous birth, and delivered both of them. So the point is that devotional service gets carried forward even if one gets a lower species, a body of a lower species of life. So with this, I conclude. The point is that even a small amount of devotional service is not forgotten by the Lord. I'm concluding the class for that session. Any questions, any comments I can take for the next few minutes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Here the Bharat Maharaj he got a deer's body. Then
Yes.
after next how he become this thing entangled. Next he
Okay.
understood
There is one point which I forgot to mention. He isolated himself, Bharat Maharaj isolated him in the body of a deer. He did not associate with anyone. So in the next body, he got the body as a Jada Bharata, where he was born in a Brahmin family to continue the devotional service. And when he took birth as Jada Bharata, he realized the previous mistakes, and so he was not talking to anyone. He isolated himself from the rest of the family members, and they all thought that he was a mad fellow. And by the arrangement of the Lord, he had to leave home. Sometimes they mistreated him, ill-treated him, and then he left home. And thereafter, as Jadabharata, he became exalted. And in that birth, he completed his devotional service and went back to the spiritual world. There is a long discussion between him and King Rahugana, which I will not dwell on it now. So he kept himself very quiet as a Brahmana. And Srila Prabhupada also mentions that we should not indulge ourselves in prajalpa, which can lead one to fall down.
okay, in the deer body how means how in deer body from deer body to he become Jada Bharat. In deer body
Yeah.
he associated with where
He didn't associate with
he
anybody.
in
He,
okay
he realized
he
that
come
he
okay
realized that he did not
self-realized
associate with anybody,
self-realized.
and he left the deer's body without any association. And he left that place also where he took birth. That is where the last sloka says that one should not be attached to the birthplace. And then he got the body as a Jadabharata to complete that devotional service. And at that Brahmana's body, he was very, very silent. People thought that he was mad, but actually he was the most intelligent person, which King Rahugana could realize during the conversation.
Okay, okay.
That's why a Brahmana is supposed to talk only
Means
what is required.
okay
Brahmana means
he is
devotee is supposed to talk only what is required.
okay, okay. I mean to say, as means the deer body, he's completed his deer body, that life, or
Yes, yes. So what is the question?
okay, means in deer body he has realized. Then
He
he
realized
deer,
that he made a mistake, and then he thought that he should not commit the same mistake. So Lord made an arrangement to take birth in a Brahmana's family, which also is
oh,
given in the Bhagavad Gita.
thank you, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Any other comments? Shri Hari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanat Pranams.
Any other questions or anybody, any comments? If not, can I take the class as concluded?
Yes, Prabhuji. I don't think there is any questions.
So thank you all very much.
Yes.
Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Prabhuji, thank
Tirtha
you.
Chaitanya Prabhuji. Dhanat Pranams to you.
And
Hare
the thanks
Krishna.
to all. Thank you all very much.
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Prabhuji.
devotees.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Vandanam.
Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
And